talk to me about this methane tax. I call it a methane tax because the government says, no, it's not. It's an aspiration, this 30% cut in methane that they're signing up to now at COP27 in Egypt. But we saw what happened in New Zealand, didn't we?
Oh, totally. And look, just go back to before the election. The Labor Party said that there was no need for us to sign up to a methane pledge. And because methane has a shelf life of about 12 years, there is no scientific way in agriculture to get rid of it. In fact, people are talking about seaweed additives in your food for livestock to get rid of it. Those trials have proven they're too expensive and can't be done. So we're signing up to something we don't have a solution to. And in that pledge, be very mindful that within that pledge there's a clause in that actually allows our banks to use their moral compass, God help us, to be able to cut off capital for farmers if they haven't looked to reduce their emissions and even methane emissions. So what we're saying is we had a whole of economy...
Sorry, David. David, can you say that again? Because I have not picked that up. Say it again, please.
Yeah, so within this pledge, even though the government's saying, well, look, it's not something that's binding, it actually has a clause in it that says that financial institutions can restrict capital to farmers if they don't demonstrate that they can reduce methane emissions and total carbon emissions. So what that means is you can restrict the flow of capital to farmers, which means they can't go and expand their crop. In fact, they can't go and expand their properties or even run their properties. And so this is a roundabout way of getting to what Justine Ardern at least had the courage to do, was to put a tax on it. And in Netherlands, they're actually saying they're reducing the carrying capacity of their farms to meet these actual reductions in emissions that they're signing up to. So you can't do that with science. There's no technological way of doing it. So what we're saying is you need to have a whole of emissions, otherwise you will pay. And the commentary here from the gallery, it was into me when I said barbecues were going to be stopped because of this. Australians won't be able to afford it. Well, let me tell you, they already can't. A T-bone is around $30 a kilogram. Your eye fillet's over $75 a kilogram. There's a lot of families that haven't had a barbecue for well over 2 years. And if you take away supply, you lift price. And this is what they don't understand. If you don't have a solution to achieve this, then what happens is you either have to tax it or you reduce your herd side. And that means that supply goes down, price goes up, and you pay for it. And this government is trying to do it by stealth through this pledge and clauses within that pledge that might seem as though they will do no harm, but in fact they can, and they can have really big consequences for you at the checkout.
So I'm just going to pick up that point you talk about banks. So I'll use my sister as an example. Her and her husband run about 900 head dairy farm down in Western Victoria. Let's say they want to expand the farm. They go to the bank, get some more money, grow their herd, increase their land size, more silage, etc. But the bank manager says, well, look, you've got the financial equity to do that, but I haven't seen your carbon reduction plan. I haven't seen your methane reduction plan, and I can't see you cutting it by enough. We won't lend you the money to expand. Is that the sort of stuff you're talking about?
This is the rabbit hole that we can go down, and this is the dangerous thing where banks are already asking farmers around what their environmental credentials are. Let me say, our farmers are the best stewards of their land. In fact, I tried to put an incentive in there for them to be rewarded for that, for their stewardship of their land, that it was market-driven, not paid by the Australian taxpayer. But what we do find ourselves in is we go down these rabbit holes, is that invariably finances can be withheld if they're not living up to the standards in which morally the banks want to set. Now, I don't think banks should be in a position, whether that be in agriculture or particularly the resource sector, to be making moral decisions for this country. That's for governments, because governments can be elected or re-elected or kicked out. And this is where I think we're starting to go down a slippery slope, and that's why I think this government, while we've said we'd sign up to net zero by 2050, the way this government is doing is not how we would do it. We would do it by using technology and science, protecting our economy, keeping down the costs by making sure we did this in a calm, methodical way. We've got till 2050. We don't have to rush into this. We can be sensible. We've got sovereignty of ownership of all our resources, so we don't have to rush this. But the reckless pace, whether it be with methane, whether it be with renewables, that this government is putting pressure on, you're seeing at the checkout now.
Got to leave it there, David Littleproud. We might agree to disagree on the 2050 stuff, but everything else, particularly that bank issue, I didn't pick that up, so thank you for that tonight.